Hello, hello. How's everybody doing today? Welcome, welcome. Just checking chat. Good evening. All right. Where are you watching from? Be curious to know. Excuse me. Guys doing good? Awesome. Glad to hear that. Glad to hear that. Well, welcome to tizoguitar. If you're new here, my name is Tyler Griffiths. I go by Tizo, and this channel is all about learning how to play guitar, typically with a special focus on R&B music. But today's stream is going to be about something that applies to any genre. So as you can see from the title of the stream, we're going to be talking about how to go from frustration to mastery, overcoming these common guitar practice pitfalls. Guitar is an instrument that's already kind of has a steep learning curve at the beginning, and you're going to end up on your guitar journey hitting many plateaus. You're going to plateau for a bit, you'll shoot up in progress, plateau again, and the whole thing I want to show you guys today is how not to lose heart, how to stay encouraged, how to know good techniques to break out of plateaus and to keep getting better. So the first thing, let me mention, of course, always, if you find this stream helpful at all, please remember to do all the good things that the algorithm loves. Like, comment, share, subscribe if you haven't already. It really does help the channel out. I greatly appreciate that. And let me just make sure I got my notes up so I stay on track. Okay, today's stream is for the person who is practicing pretty regularly, but they don't feel like they're getting any better. Okay, so what we want to do is touch on some common issues that I see in my private students, as well as even in myself from time to time, and really kind of work on how do we address those things, how do we find solutions that are going to help us break out of those moments where we're really feeling frustrated and down that we're just not getting better at our instrument. So what I want you guys to remember, the quote of the day is going to be, you get more consistent at the things that you practice, for better or worse, okay? Get more consistent, not necessarily better, just more consistent. And some things I want you guys to be thinking about as we are going through the different things for today is, I want you to think, are you really not getting better, or are you not getting better as fast as you want to? Okay, two different things. Are you not getting better at all, which is possible, or are you not getting better as quickly as you would like? The second thing I want you to think about is, what are you practicing and how are you practicing it? Okay, really kind of think about that stuff, break it down as we're going through. So I only have three things. Definitely going to talk a lot about them, but I only have three things to really focus on for today's stream. So let's get to it. The first one is not practicing, first issue is not practicing intentionally, not practicing with structure, and also having no reasonable milestones along the way. Lump all that together because sometimes when we go to pick up our instrument, first thing we do, right? Grab it, we tune up, hopefully, always playing tune up, and we start playing, and we are noodling around, usually on the pentatonic, right? So is this you? As soon as you pick it up? I'm in the neck pickup, should be on the neck pickup. Right? And we do that for 5, 10, 15 minutes. Maybe we have a backing track that we like, or we set up a little loop on our looper pedal, and we're just going up and down that same pentatonic shape, right? Not really doing anything that we haven't done before, but it just feels good to kind of cut loose and play a little bit. Nothing wrong with noodling, per se, okay? Noodling is fine, but you want to have a reason for what you're doing. So, yeah, even if you're not noodling, maybe you're just strumming open chords that you know already. You know, maybe you put your capo for whatever song you're working on, you're playing around, great. There's a time and a place for that, okay? So it's not bad by itself. But even if you're working on a song, which is what I suggest that people should be doing most of the time, is working towards playing a song in some way, either working on the required techniques for a song, or actually it's working on playing the chord changes. Even if you're working on a song, sometimes we practice without any milestones. So especially if the song is very difficult, because a lot of our favorite songs might be just a little bit above our playing ability, we tend to just kind of feel like, all right, once we start learning, we're learning the chord shapes, and if we can't play it, then we're actually just not getting any better. You know, every time I go to play this song, I keep messing up on the same spot over and over. It gets frustrating, and 6 months later, we still can't play the song. Okay, so how do we fix that issue? First thing you want to do is you want to give yourself some reasonable, key point is reasonable, milestones. Just to give you some context. So if you're learning something completely brand new on guitar, or for me personally, if I'm learning something completely foreign to me on guitar, I always give myself at least 3 months to become competent at it, and 6 months to become good, to really become where I'm really solid with it. I can play in front of people doing that, no problem. Okay. Now your mileage may vary. Some things are just going to take longer than 6 months to master and longer than 3 months to get comfortable with. But I find that that is typically, for most things, a good spot. So what does that mean? Psychologically, I don't beat myself up if I can't play a certain song within 6 months or within 3 months, right? I want to make sure that I'm setting progress goals, but I want to give myself that space, that latitude to not feel down on myself for not having achieved that super quickly. All right, that's a really key thing you want to get into your mind, is that you don't need to accomplish these things super quickly. You need to accomplish them in the end, and you have to set reasonable goals along the way. So what's a reasonable goal along the way for a song you're learning? Okay. What you want to do is learn the chords, just the chords by themselves, not the chords playing in time, just the chords. You want to be able to play all those chords without any muting, without any buzzing, without any missed strings when you go to hit them. You only want to be playing the strings that you're supposed to play for that chord and nothing else, okay? Start there. Practice in free time. You're just playing through the chord shapes, right? Then the next milestone maybe is to be able to play along with the song at a reduced speed. Maybe start at 50%. Usually if you get to like 0.25 or whatever it is, 0.25x on YouTube, it's a little too muddy and weird sounding. But I find that if you go down to about half speed, it still sounds okay on the little YouTube setting. So you can do reduced speed. That's your next milestone. I want to be able to play in time at a reduced speed. Then you can gradually step that up. And what you want to do is give yourself actual deadlines to reach this by. So maybe you want to say, at the end of this week, I want to at least know all the chord shapes by heart. Okay. Then maybe a week or two later, you want to be able to play all those chord shapes with no buzzing and no muting. And 2 additional weeks, you want to be able to play it at half speed with no mess ups. That kind of stuff. All right. You want to gradually work your way up to the point at which you're playing the song in time and at full speed. Okay. But you need little spots, little goalposts, little milestones along the way so that you can see that you are making progress. All right. It's just not as quick as you might like, but at least you have a plan and you're attacking it step by step. That's how you're going to get there. All right. Let me just check chat. How are we doing? Okay. I'm going to keep on going. All right. So, and same thing for the noodlers out there. So if you typically will throw on a loop or your favorite backing track and you'll play around the pentatonic, what I would do is just give yourself a goal for the end of that noodling session. So maybe you say, all right, I'm going to play over my favorite loop, but this time I'm going to make sure that I come away with 3 licks, 3 brand new licks I'm going to make up myself while I'm noodling. Okay, so just try different combinations out, but hold yourself accountable for having 3 new licks at the end of that little noodling session, because then you're getting something out of it. You're actually getting better. You're adding to your vocabulary. They don't have to be amazing licks. They don't have to be hard to play. Just has to be something new. Stretch yourself, challenge yourself. And maybe if you know a few different shapes of, let's say, the pentatonic, because there's a total of 5 boxes of the pentatonic scale, maybe what you do is the next time that you go to noodle, you use a different shape of the pentatonic. Try to play those same exact licks in that different shape, okay? Then move on to a different shape the next week. So you're just adding some structure, adding some milestones, giving yourself something to where at the end of your practice session, you've gotten something new or a value, or you've gotten better at something and not just kind of free-handing it, so to speak. So with that, last point, I highly recommend keeping a practice journal, okay? What is the layout for this practice journal? It can be paper and pencil, or it can be the notes app on your phone. But every day when you practice, you start off, put the date. Under that, put your current goals, what you're currently working towards, right? That may be learning all the chords to this song, okay? That's your current goal. Then below that, you'll put what you're doing to work towards that goal. So 20 minutes or 15 minutes of practicing chords, 10 10 minutes of working on chord transitions, so on and so forth. But write out what you're doing and how long that you're doing it for. That way you have a log of your progress and how you're working towards your goal, okay? And I like having that goal right after the date because that's the first thing you see. We got to attack that. And then, once you get to the point where you've met that goal, cross it off or check it off, highlight it, celebrate, and then add your next goal, all right? But you're adding a method to it and you're keeping yourself accountable with that journal, okay? Alrighty. If you're just joining us, we're just going over some things to work on for practicing and how to avoid that frustration of feeling like you're practicing and you're being diligent on your instrument, but you're not seeing results. So we're just going over a few things. So first thing, practicing with intention and practicing with milestones. All right, keep yourself accountable with those milestones. Next one, and this kind of goes hand in hand with the first point, but it's practicing efficiently, okay? Practicing efficiently. And what that means is you're not using the majority of your practice time on things that aren't going to help you and that aren't pushing you forward in your journey, right? So practicing efficiently, let me give you an example. So one of the common things I teach my students is the song Best Part. It's a fan favorite. Everybody loves jamming along with that. And how could you not? It's an amazing song. But with Best Part, there's 4 chords, typically. You get your D major 7, A minor 7, G major 7, and B flat major 7. All right, 4 chord loop. And typically, what I'm finding is happening is that most people are good with the first 3 chords. And once they get to that 4th chord, it's where we tend to struggle. Okay, so maybe what that might look like is missing some of the notes, or it's muted. It might be where you have some buzzing, whatever it may be. That transition from that G major 7 to the B flat major 7 tends to be a little rough, okay? And so what will happen is you might go to practice that song and you're just going through. I'm going to show you how we should not practice this song, okay? Let's just say, hypothetically, the B flat major 7 is the issue, right? Doesn't want to sound good. Here's what you shouldn't do, in my opinion. Okay, so what's wrong with that? What's the issue? I'm practicing the song. I'm going through my chord changes. Yeah. Excuse me, let me get some water. Doing a lot of talking today. I'm going through my chord changes. I'm practicing the song, trying to keep in the flow of it. What's the issue there? Well, the first thing is it's really hard to keep in the flow when you don't know how to play. Excuse me. When you don't know how to play one of the chords in the progression, okay? It's going to slow you down. It's going to make practicing feel clunky and not very satisfying. So what you should do, in my opinion, once again, humble opinion, you should hone in on the spots that are giving you the most difficulty. So here's how I would suggest practicing that. First thing I would do is I wouldn't bother playing the chords that aren't giving me too much trouble, which are that D major 7 and that A minor 7. Excuse me. I would focus on the transition between the G major 7 and the B flat major 7. And so what progress would look like for me is getting to the point where I could go between the G major 7 and the B flat major 7 with no issues. So here's how I would practice that. Just practice in free time, going between the two. And take note of what I'm doing there. I'm playing each string, I'm arpeggiating each of those chord shapes. Excuse me. I'm arpeggiating each of those chord shapes because I want to hear that I'm playing each of those chords cleanly with all the notes ringing out perfectly. No buzzing, no muting. If I can do that, I know I have a great grip on that chord. And so I would just go back and forth, free time, no metronome involved, and just work on getting that transition fine. Then I would also practice the transition out of the B flat to the D major 7. I would practice that just to make sure that was smooth too. So really just focusing on everything around that B flat major 7. Okay, then what you want to do is add the time accountability to that. So you want to put on a metronome, maybe half speed relative to the full speed of the track. And you just want to go and play through and just go back and forth. Okay, you just want to go back and forth until that feels good. Then incorporate it into the rest of the song. So then you would start off playing your D major 7. Maybe you do it at a reduced speed. Maybe it's still half speed, but that's fine because now you got it to where you go between those last two chords at half speed. So just play the whole progression at half speed. Let that feel good. Get that to where you're not making any mistakes, and then gradually move that speed up. Okay? But all that time that you might have been using to play the D major 7 and the A minor 7, that really weren't giving you any issue. That's all wasted time, in my opinion. Okay, you really want to just spend as much time as you can focused on the problem areas. Excuse me. Man, it is a rough day. Focus on the problem areas. Ooh, wake up. Because that's going to be where you'll see the most improvement. That's what's going to make you feel like, yes, I am getting better. Because think about it, like the quote from the beginning, the more you practice, the more consistent you get at something. So you might be getting better at playing your D major 7 and your A minor 7 if you're playing that in the context of the song, but it doesn't really matter too much to you, right? Because you weren't really struggling with those chords in the first place. So maybe when you go to hit that chord, you play it 9 times out of 10, you play that D minor 7 or D major 7 perfectly, right? And now that extra practice, maybe it makes it that you play it 10 times out of 10. If you always hit that chord, right? Maybe not. Maybe it's 8 out of 10 and then 9 out of 10. But you going from hitting something 80% of the time to 90% of the time isn't going to feel like much progress when that last chord is what's really, 1 out of 10 initially, okay? So you are getting more consistent at the things you practice, but you really just want to focus in on the stuff that is of value, right? Hitting that last chord in time is of more value than playing that first chord correctly for the 1,000th time, okay? So that's one thing. So just to reiterate, narrow down, focus on the part that's the issue, work on that, build up over time, and then add time accountability to it after you've gotten to the point where you can get it in free time, with no metronome going. Always use that metronome if you can, once you know the shapes and get the transitions down. Alrighty. How are we doing on time? Let's see. Okay, pretty good. PhDT says, blessings, bro. Welcome back. Thank you. Welcome back as well. Thank you for watching. Okay, so the next thing we're going to go on, the last one, is a problem that I myself struggle with, and that is taking on too much at once and also not appreciating the progress you already have. All right, this is a big one. I think this is probably the main cause of frustration among people, especially intermediate players. I think once you get over the hump of being a beginner, not being able to play a lot of the open chords, not being able to hit the strings you want to hit. Once you get to that point where it's like, all right, cool, I can play a G major, I can play a D major, I can play a C major. I'm able to strum along with my favorite songs. Good. Then you hit that intermediate spot where now you know all your open chords. Maybe you know some bar chords, but you're like, all right, what's next? So some of these things that I see as far as taking on too much all at once. Maybe we're trying to learn 4 or 5 songs at the same time. Maybe we know scales, but we don't actually know how to use them. So that can be another big one, right? I'm sure someone out there right now knows all 5 positions of the pentatonic scale and no licks, okay? And that's not a dig. That was me. I was like, oh great, I'm learning the pentatonic shape. I'm gonna learn box 2, box 3, box 4, and then it's like when it comes to actually play, we don't know anything because we really only spent our time working on those shapes, okay? And why do we do that? Is the question I ask. And what I think personally is that because guitars has such a steep learning curve, for our intermediate players, I'm thinking about the intermediate players right now. Guitar has such a steep learning curve that once you get past that initial beginner hump, you get to a point where you feel like you put in so much work to get to the point where you can play these chords and strum in time, and it's like at that point any progress or any movement feels like progress, right? So if you're practicing your pentatonic scales every day, it feels like progress, even though you don't know any licks, because I'm being diligent, right? I'm picking up my instrument every day. I'm working on these shapes. I'm making sure I play them properly. But with that, you have to understand that to get better at things, you have to practice stuff you're not already good at. And it doesn't feel good to go from being pretty proficient at something to going back to being a beginner. But that is the blessing and curse of music, is that when you learn new things, you're a complete beginner all over again. You have to, maybe you have some of the technical facilities, picking, strumming, moving your fingers properly. Maybe you have the finger independence that you learn from practicing scales. But for many things, especially theory-wise, we're starting back at ground zero. So we have to understand that it doesn't feel great, but it is a part of the process to build upon what you already have with something brand new, and you have to go back to not sounding good. And then just for a little bit, right? You go back to not sounding good and you're learning, you're applying what you already know, and then gradually you start making that progress. You shoot up, you break out of that plateau, you start shooting up in progress and getting better at your instrument in ways that you can appreciate, okay? So the tendency with that, sorry, I gotta keep looking at my notes to make sure I stay on topic. The tendency with that is that we might learn something halfway and then get bored of it and start saying, all right, I want to learn this now, I want to learn that, what's next? But I strongly encourage you to resist the temptation to move on before you've actually really dug in and understand the ins and outs of what you're learning currently, okay? It's okay to stop and chew your food and make sure you digest everything. You don't have to rush, and go through a whole 20-piece McNugget in 5 minutes. Open the barbecue sauce, double dip. It's not as nasty as everybody says. Double dip, triple dip if you want to. It's your sauce. But make sure you're getting the most out of that experience. So if you're learning a scale, like the major pentatonic or the minor pentatonic scale, learn some licks. Challenge yourself to say, I'm going to learn 20 licks in just this shape. And then moving forward, I'm going to learn maybe those same 20 licks or 20 new licks in a different shape. So now it's not just keeping consistent with knowing how to play the shape up and down the fretboard, but you're also adding tools to your kit based off what you're learning. You're using what you're learning. You're not just maintaining what you're learning. Very, very important. All right. But yes, resist that temptation to move on early. And then, because what's going to happen is you're going to end up being mediocre or bad, worst case scenario, bad, at a whole bunch of stuff and not really good at anything that's of value to your specific playing, all right, which is the most important. We're always trying to find our voice. We're trying to find our way to play whatever we want on that fretboard to really express ourselves on our instrument. And so you don't want to practice a bunch of stuff that's not really going to help you. Like if you love a specific genre, like I love R&B, I love gospel, you don't need to spend that much time pursuing other stuff like in different genres or in different technical abilities. Like why do you need to be a shredder if you're playing stuff that's like laid back? You don't really need to have that facility. Yes, it's good to practice it, but don't beat yourself up because you don't play at 230 beats per minute playing through all your scales, because you might not ever need that in a live context. Now for me, I'm a teacher. I teach guitar, so I want to make sure I at least have a decent feeling or decent understanding of a lot of different topics. But as far as the majority of the stuff that I practice doesn't actually end up helping me on stage or in my personal playing, just because it's just something that I wanted to be aware of, but I'm not actually going to use it, So don't devote too much time to that, okay, is the lesson. unless you are a teacher, then you have to learn everything. Joking. So the next thing is, let's see, how do we fix that? Okay, so we have the issue, and you're like, Tizo, I'm learning 6 different songs at once. I'm not good at any of them. I can't play them. I don't know any licks, but I know all the different modes of the major scale. Okay, so same principle. Dial it back. Okay, of course, dial it back. Focus on maybe one to two songs max. You should be working on at any given time, unless you're playing in a live context and you have a set list to learn by Thursday. In that case, God bless you. I hope you make it. But if you don't have to rush to learn something, don't. Okay, 1 to 2 songs max at any given time. With the scales, same principle. Pick just one scale shape and figure out, how do I use that in my playing, okay? How do I use that to play music that I like to play? Pick the scale shape, lock yourself into it, challenge yourself to find 10, 15 licks in just that shape, okay? And then throw on your favorite backing track, loop the chords to best part, and try those licks out in just that shape. Then move on to a different shape, but don't move on through all 5 shapes of the pentatonic unless you already know some decent vocabulary in the shape you're learning. There's no reason to know it, because it's not actually going to help you to know all 5 boxes and only know licks in box 1, which box 1 is hold on one second. Box 1 is the one that we all learn first, which I should know how to play. 5/8, 5/7, 5/7, 5/7, 5/8, 5/8. That's box 1. You should learn a ton of licks in that box first before you ever go to box 2. Okay, and you should be able to repeat at least some of those licks in that box 2, so that you always have your vocabulary accessible. Okay, no matter what box you're in, because it really frees you up. The next thing, let's see, same principle. Once again, anything brand new, at least 3 months to be comfortable, 6 months to master or to feel really competent where you could play in front of people, is what I would say personally. Most things are not going to take that long. And when I say 3 months or 6 months to get good at something, I'm talking about really small, focused goals. So it's like 6 months to master a certain bar chord shape, okay? Like one bar chord shape. You can practice multiple bar chord shapes in your practice sessions, but give yourself, from start to finish, 6 months to be like, all right, this bar chord shape is no problem anymore. 3 months to be comfortable, where you hit it most of the time. All right? And I'll just end on I'm really going through this quickly. I'll end on a final note. So I mentioned at the beginning of this, right, or at the beginning of this section of the live stream, taking on too much at once and not appreciating progress kind of go hand in hand, because I see that a lot. And this is the thing. You've already put in so much work. If you're intermediate, if you're a beginner, you have a little bit ahead of you. But if you're intermediate, or you've been playing for a while, you've already put in so much work to get to the point where you're at, okay? And one thing that's easy to lose sight of is that there was a time where if somebody walked up to you and they said, I'll give you $100 million if you can play a G chord perfectly, you wouldn't be able to do it, right? There was a point in time. Now, maybe someone did that today, you probably wouldn't show up to work on Monday, because now it's like an afterthought. You're so used to playing that G chord, it's easy, no big deal. You should appreciate that. That's what I'm talking to myself here too. You should appreciate that, because you've put in the work to get there, and now any song you want to learn that has an open G chord, it's not going to be an issue for you, right? You're putting in the work, you're seeing the progress, but after a little bit, we kind of forget what it was like to not be able to do certain things on the guitar. We forgot what it was like to not understand what a chord progression was, or not know how to tune our guitar. These seem like very basic things, but there's someone out there that doesn't know that. And you should really remember that, yes, you might not be where you want to be, but you're not where you were. So take some time to celebrate that, to know that, yes, you are getting better. And you might be getting better in ways you don't see. So think about this. Not all improvement is based on technical abilities, right? Not about how fast you can play, how cleanly you can play. There's a bunch of stuff, like even things like tastefulness. Let me mute this guitar. Things like tastefulness, things like time feel, right? Knowing how to either go behind the beat or stay on the beat or go a little bit ahead of the beat at will. That's important. What other things? Ear training, transcription, understanding music theory is a big one. These are ways that we can improve on our instrument that have that might not have as much that might not show as much in our technical proficiency, but still adds to our musicality, still adds to our whole journey of trying to master the guitar. We want to make sure we're playing things that sound appropriate. We shouldn't be shredding over an 80 BPM track or a 70 BPM track. We want to make sure that we're choosing our spots, that we're not just playing endless streams of licks over it. You want to take a break, take pauses with intention. You want to have a good ear. You want to be able to recognize what a C major 7 or just a major 7 chord sounds like. You want to know what a major chord, what the 6 chord sounds like, what the 4 chord sound like. Those things are all ways that you're improving on your instrument that never play out necessarily. I shouldn't say never, but don't necessarily play out in how fast you can pick and how complicated and how flashy you can be, So just think about that. Think about the whole of what it takes to be a master of any instrument. And it's about understanding how to use things, understanding how to pick your spots, how to play with others. Hopefully we're all playing with others if we can. And then technical proficiency is a piece of that, but it's not everything. And then also just make sure that you're having fun with it too, as much as you can. I know that sounds cliche, but we picked up this instrument so that we could have fun and play our favorite songs. So you really want to just make sure that everything that you're doing is going towards that. It's all about the music and having fun and enjoying that. Let's see. That's about it. That's about all I have. Hopefully this helped somebody. If it did, please remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, all the fun stuff so that other people can see my channel as well. And if any of this stuff resonated with you, let me know in the comments, because I really want to know if I'm just speaking for myself out here. This might just be a therapy session for me. But if it resonated with you, let me hear. I'd love to hear about what you're currently going through, what you're currently working on. And I'm always responding to comments. If you need any kind of encouragement or any advice, feel free to reach out about that. Also, like I said before, I do teach private lessons. I teach them via Zoom. So if you have, if you're looking for accountability, if you're looking for some direction with learning your instrument, feel free to reach out to tizoguitar@gmail.com. Tizoguitar, just like the channel name, at gmail.com. Say, hey, I'm looking for some information about lessons, and I will send some info to you as soon as possible, okay? Because I want to make sure that everybody's getting the most out of their instrument and out of their practice time. That's the reason why I do this. What else? I have a Twitter. I never talk about it. I have a Twitter, tizoguitar, @tizoguitar on Twitter. Same for Instagram. Feel free to follow me there. I plan on announcing when I'm going to be doing streams a lot more frequently on Twitter. At the most, I think I'll be doing maybe 2 streams a week. One might be a song tutorial or like a quick little lesson, 15 minutes or less kind of thing. And then the others will be like this, where it's, between 30 minutes to an hour on Saturdays. So let's see. Yes, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram, and of course subscribe if you haven't already. I would greatly appreciate that. Just checking chat one last time. The most useful part for me is working on different licks for each shape of the pentatonic. Dope. Yes, got to do it. It's a great insight to not have to feel like you are jumping around too much. Yeah, and you'll notice some of the most tasteful players really don't have to do a whole lot as far as moving up and down the neck. It's just a matter of getting the most appropriate licks for the song or for the track, and it's as easy as possible. Really, don't feel like you have to be going up and down if you don't. If you can stay in one place and just play with a lot of soul, with a lot of feeling, it'll get the job done, Let's see. How can I use the melodic minor scale on a dominant chord? Melodic minor scale on a dominant chord. I think one of the modes of melodic minor is the Lydian dominant chord. I believe you can play it over that. I don't use a whole lot of the melodic minor, to be honest. It's actually something that I'm working on currently. But I believe there's a one of the modes of the melodic minor is the Lydian dominant. I think it's the fourth mode. Look into that. Somebody can help you a lot better than I could. But the Lydian dominant, you play it over dominant or alter dominant chords, like 13s or 7 sharp 9s, whatever it may be, I think that will steer you in the right direction. So look up Lydian dominant mode, melodic minor. All right. Any more questions? If not, I will get out of your hair, let you enjoy your weekend. Thanks for letting me talk at you. I apologize, I'm still getting over a cold. Yeah, no problem. Happy to help. All right. Well, I'm going to get out of your hair. So definitely enjoy your weekend. Hopefully some of the stuff was encouraging and helpful to you. That's why I'm here. And, you know, just remember, if you got nothing else from this stream, remember, you are getting better, okay? If you want to get better at certain things, just focus on those certain things. Let's see, PhD saying, wait, I'm still here. If you want to get better at certain things, you have to focus in on that, you know? So don't play the whole progression if you're only struggling on one little area. Just play that little area over and over until it feels good. Okay. Let's see. Shaitan says, what do you think about the PRS SE? There's plenty of different SE models. I have a Zach Myers SE that it's hanging up over there that I play on the channel a few times, and I like it. I like it a lot. It's probably one of my favorite neck shapes, but I like my necks a little wide and really fat. Not quite baseball. Not talking about like, was it 60 Les Paul or 59 Les Paul? But it's got a pretty beefy neck, and I got big palms relative to my fingers. I don't know why, but I like the big beefy necks, and it plays great. The only thing I don't like per se is the pickups, but that's a personal preference thing. They're not bad pickups at all. Just a little bit muddier than I would prefer. Okay, PhDTT says, does playing R&B get a bit more redundant since the chords are similar within the music? Can be. I mean, it can be redundant. It just depends on, do you enjoy? If you enjoy playing R&B, then it's not going to feel redundant, but I can say a lot of the chord progressions are used a lot, like the 1 to 4. 1 to 4 is used a lot. 4, 3, 2, 1 progressions are used a lot. Or 1, 2, 3, 4. That gets used a lot. Any combination of the 2, 3, and 6 gets done to death. But it's a matter of like, what do you do around it? Especially if you have a song that has a lot of space between the chord changes, you could do a lot and get really creative with it, which I enjoy. And then one more. Also, I'm using the Boss ME80 for most of my sound, but I like to learn how to dial it in for some great R&B tones. R&B is not super complicated as far as the tones. What you want to have is a good squeaky clean tone, as far as like even if you're banging like strumming really hard, hitting the strings really hard, it doesn't distort in the amp. So find that setting. Squeaky clean. Then add some reverb. I prefer spring or hall reverb. Look into the reverb types if you're not familiar with how those work. But I like the sound of spring or hall reverb. Typical, any delay really works. I like having quarter note delay on certain things. Reverb delay. You might want compression. You might not want compression. It just depends on how much dynamics you want to be included in that. I personally don't. I should say I never used to play with compression when I was playing R&B type music until I got into the soloing stuff. Then I wanted that for the extra boost. And then in line with that, you want a good distortion pedal or good overdrive or boost or all three for your lead tones. So typically my lead tone is at least 2 stages of distortion and reverb and delay, typically what I use. And then bridge pickup cranked. Let's see, what else we got? Just trying to hit your email. We're just going to hit you for listen. Thank you for your time. I appreciate that. Yeah, definitely reach out. I'll get you some info as soon as I can. And Swin says, thanks, Tizo. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. It's great not talking to an empty room. So, yes, I'm going to let you guys go. And, excuse me, definitely take these tips to heart. You know, it's okay if you don't see the progress as fast as you would like, but you are getting better. Stay encouraged. And just keep playing. That's the best thing. Just keep playing. Alrighty, y'all.